Welcome back to the Pretty Awkward Entrepreneur Podcast. We have an amazing couples conversation guest today, Maggie and Cosmos Fitzpatrick. Welcome to the show, you guys. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, so excited to be here.
I know. And Luna's here too, everyone. So if you hear some breathing or a bark once in a while, Maggie and Cosmos have 5 dogs?
Four.
Yeah. 4. Why did I think 5? 4. 4 dogs. So I think she senses that there's dogs on the other side of the screen. So she wants to be here as well. But we're so excited to dive in. You guys have a very, I think, unique story and just a cool story about how you've grown together. We're going to get into all of that. But why don't you both introduce yourselves individually? Maggie, we can start with you first. And then I'd love to hear how you guys got together, and we'll dive into the juicy stuff after that.
Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. I'm Maggie. And let's see, what things do you want to know? You probably want to know what I do for my business. So
yes, what do you do, where are you from, all that jazz.
Yeah, we live in upstate New York. Like Megan said, we have 4 dogs. And I started off as a fitness coach, and I still do a lot of fitness coaching, mostly online. And I work with mostly women, and I help them, regain that feeling that they had when they were athletes. And so I help them with their workout programs and their mindset, and help them take their life from good to great, and also get back into that winning mentality when it comes to life in general. So that is what I do within my fitness coaching business. I also coach high school girls soccer and basketball, and I love doing that. And I am a writer for the local newspaper. So every week I have a column that comes out, and it's called Moving Towards Health. And I really take that opportunity to take my local community and educate them and give them the tools necessary to move towards a healthier life. So I think that's all the things that I do at this moment.
And whenever we talk about when Maggie's introducing herself in a call that we're on, I'm always and she's a local celebrity. So I just always want to say that you really are in your town, which is just the coolest thing. Yeah, people are oh, yeah, it's Maggie.
Yeah, that is definitely happening. We were actually just talking about this because 2 days ago we were going to a basketball game that was a fundraiser. So there were 3 games in a row, and the school that I coach for was playing. The boys were playing, and we were just talking about how it feels like we're finally starting to feel our impact in the area. Mm-hmm. I mean, we both grew up here, but now it feels like the time has come where, we are doing so many things and helping so many people. And there's such a long way to go, but I'm starting to notice that the work is paying off. And I feel really young for that to happen. But
you are,
we've wanted to move away. And now it's well, this is where all the change is happening right here, where we grew up, where we've always been. So that's kind of a tangent, but yeah, we're really, really big in our local community, and that's important to us.
Yeah, I think that's huge, because I hear it all the time. When you want to really make big change, start with where you are. And you guys are really doing that. A lot of people, they try to go too big, too fast. And you're let's impact change from here. I think that's amazing. I love it. Awesome.
Thank you. Cos, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Cosmos. We grew up in the same town. Maggie and I grew up in the same town, Parksville, New York, which is this tiny little hamlet. Chances of 2 people growing up in the same town there, slim. Anyway, so but I've been involved in agricultural businesses for many years growing up. We did a lot of agricultural work, mostly manual labor, and a lot of land clearing and different types of blue collar work like that. But it evolved over the years into me just taking advantage of certain opportunities to be able to get into several businesses, which is I'm in right now. I am the president of Edenbrook, which is one of the larger commodity brokerages in the United States that operate with, we broker 3 different commodities, or specialize in 3 commodities, hay, straw, and shavings, which have different uses in the agricultural world. And then I also have a few other small businesses, which building homes and operating a crew of guys that does manual labor for work on different farms. And these are all separate businesses. But if I was to like pinpoint what exactly I do, is I run businesses. It's what I do best. What makes me wake up early in the morning, like without my alarm, before my alarm, I'm up and after it, because that's just energizes me. I just love it. So, you know, I like to tell it to people like this, like our mission in every company, like there's a mission, and the mission is like the moon. And my job is to build rocket ships to get to the moon, and the business is that rocket ship. And that's what I do. So that's mainly what I do. I love to play sports. I love going to the games. I try to catch as many of the games as Maggie's coaching, and I just get so involved with it. But I love the community. It all comes back to building up communities. So every one of the businesses that we have, they have ties back, or the mission or the meaning of why we're in it have ties back to the community, and how we can bring more back to not just this community, but different communities, and bring life back into the communities. So that's mainly what I do.
I love it. What? Yeah.
I was just what are shavings?
Shavings. Great. I can go into real depth on this.
We don't have to go in depth. I was just like, hey, I don't hate strong. Yeah. I mean, I assume it's very similar. It kind of goes in the same field.
It's a byproduct of wood. So it can either be manufactured, or it's a byproduct of like lumber, but it's like wood chips or wood shavings that get used for animal bedding.
Got it.
Interesting. Cool. Well, I was going to say,
I was like, I'm sure your question is very different.
Well, more so just a statement, like you guys are the definition of entrepreneurs, you know, like just how you have your hands in so many different, I don't know this phrase. I keep wanting to say pots, and that's not the right phrase, but you're just doing so many different things, and it's obviously out of such passion for what you do. Like you're kind of always on the go, and just knowing Maggie pretty well, like always on the go, but with such intention and such purpose. And all of these different things, it sounds like, brings a different like fulfillment to you. And so just right off the bat, well, I want to hear about your story, how you guys got together, but I eventually want to also get to, how do you do it all? Like, how do you do all of these things, have these crazy schedules, and still make time for each other? So, but I'm skipping a part. Let's tell us first about your story together. How did you guys meet? How did you get together? How long have you been together? And then we'll dive into that.
Maggie, you want to tell about how we met?
Sure. I like to tell this story because it involves me winning. So obviously I like to tell it. But we have been together for 6 years, and we've been married for 3 years. But we actually first met, we both worked at the same summer camp for 3 years. And it was, I know the 3 years I worked there was before senior year of high school. We graduated in the same class, but we went to different schools. And then the 2 years after that. And I was a camp counselor, and Cosmos was a park attendant. So he was like, managing the park, and I was managing the kids. And we would always play camp counselors versus park attendants basketball games, and all the kids would watch the game. And I was the only girl that would play. And Cosmos didn't play basketball, but he always played in the basketball game. So they would make him guard me because, everyone else played basketball, and they think, oh, yeah, the girl can't play, whatever. So I would just like drop a bunch of points on him. And that was really the only interaction we ever had. Oh, do you want to interject? Do you have something to add?
All I can say is that I hustled every play. That's all I have to say.
You did your best.
Every team needs a grinder.
Exactly. Cosmos is that person. However, he is. But that was really the only interaction we ever had. We never had a conversation. And then in 2016, it was the day before Thanksgiving, and in small town upstate New York, everyone goes out to the one bar in the town, and that's where you see all of the people, the day before Thanksgiving. And we reconnected there. It was kind of saw each other from across the room. Cosmos initiated the conversation. It was very much a hey, how have you been type of thing, because we knew each other, we knew who the other person was. But that was the first conversation we actually ever had, was that day in the bar, which is hilarious because neither of us drink anymore. And yeah. So then
we're laughing because we have the same exact story as you guys. Anyway,
really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we met in a bar. And then a couple days later, I just, messaged him on Facebook, and he ran into his brother's room and dove on the bed and was like, "Oh my God, a girl texted me." And then here we are.
A girl texted me.
100% true. I dove onto the bed, my brother right next to me, and I said, "Look, a girl texted me."
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's wild and adorable. Yeah, we didn't do the basketball camp counselor thing, but knew each other in high school. But same, didn't talk, never had a real conversation. Met at a bar years later for a Giants playoff
at
game.
At
a local bar, and crossed the room, started talking. He messaged me.
I messaged her on Facebook the next day.
That's so funny. We have such a similar story. I love it.
And I would have beat her in basketball, to be fair.
He would kill me in basketball. He's actually good at basketball. I played for a second, but that's awesome. I love that. And it's so funny because like I've heard some people with similar-ish stories where they like kind of like knew of the person, and years later I'm like, you never know who you're going to end up with, right? If the person could have been around the room when you were a kid, and you just never know. I love that. That's awesome. You
have a history. You're raised similarly. So there's that feeling, that understanding, each other.
Yeah. That's what we felt. I'm sure you guys as well. Like even though we've moved and have grown in so many ways, like having that commonality was really nice, with a nice grounding,
Definitely agree with that. And especially from like the area where we are, I had been like traveling at that point to, I went to school, and I would go on like these farming tours and things like that. And I would meet a bunch of people, but no one like would connect with you. Like then someone back at home, they really understand, like they get you, and it was genuine from day one. Like, so that when we messaged, Maggie was like studying for her, what was it, the LSATs or something?
It was a GRE that I ended up taking, and didn't matter anyway. But
she was studying for something, and I was like, "Do you want to go out for a drink?" And I was like, I don't drink. And then she was like, "Well, I'm studying for this test," and I was like, "Maybe we'll go get coffee." And I don't drink coffee, and she doesn't drink coffee either. So anyway, so that night we went. I was supposed to go back to school, so I was like, "Okay, we'll go get." So we go to Dunkin' Donuts, which is like that's the coffee place in town. So we go there, and we sat down, and we went to order, and she got a hot chocolate, and I went to go order, and I was like, "Just give me a coffee." And they were like, "What kind of coffee?" And I was like, "I don't know, black." And
I
do never get coffee. Anyway, I got like a tall black coffee. We sat there and we talked until we were there at like 9 a.m. We stayed until like 11:30 until they were like mopping the floors and kicking us out. And and it was great. But I felt from day one that it was genuine. Like this was like the first girl I met that was like really genuine. She got me, I got her. It was okay that we had like all these, like she was going through a bunch of stuff at the time, and she was like an open book about it. And I was also open book, and it was like, we're genuine. And I was like, I'll take genuine any day, over anything else. Like this is exactly what I needed in my life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so sweet. Did you like the black coffee, or were you?
Did you drink it at all?
I drank every last bit of it. And
wow.
I now drink a little bit of coffee occasionally, but not much.
Black coffee is hard to do. I'm impressed with people who can do it. I can't do it.
It's funny because I go to Starbucks and I don't drink a lot of coffee. I don't know what to order. I always get up there. I'm like, I should have a better plan when I walk up there, because I get up there and they're like, "What do you want?" I'm like, that. And then I frantically order something that I don't want.
I love it. It's so funny too, the similarity. Like we met at a bar, and now we rarely drink. It's a rare occasion that we do. So I love all the similarities. It's great. So again, like we were saying before, you guys are busy. You have so much. You have 4 dogs, which I think that's like just a job in itself, is taking care of. We have 1, and I can't imagine 4. It's a lot of work. So this is a very general question, but I'm sure there are some specific things that you guys do that really help you balance it all. Just like really stick to those commitments, but also still make your marriage and your time together really priorities. Anything come to mind that you could share with the audience listening?
Do you want to go first, Cos?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like, so both of us are, both of what we do, or when you're in like entrepreneurship, is like entrepreneur is thrown around so much, and some people get confused by it, but you're in a leadership position, whether it's just yourself or whether it's you're working with a bunch of different people, you're in a leadership position. And I've kind of come to terms with that. If you're in a leadership position in any way, you have to emulate the kind of leader you want to be for your people. But you also, which means leading the life you need, like, so prioritizing the things that matter most, which is your spouse. So I prioritize Maggie. I have to prioritize my health. Otherwise I will not be able to prioritize Maggie. And so prioritizing those two first is like first really my health, and second, the relationship. That's really, the two things that I put first and foremost. If the work is going to be there, but I have to prioritize. Otherwise, the work isn't worth it if I have no relationship or no love, So.
Yeah. Are there any, I'm curious for you specifically, Cosmos, are there any checks or balances, I guess that would be the phrase, that you have with yourself to be like, am I prioritizing my health? Am I prioritizing Maggie? Any habits, any rituals that you guys do together?
We've been, it's not easy. This is something that is a challenge. We've been prioritizing taking one day off a week, which is really hard. And so we're taking Sundays off, and we did a really good job of that yesterday. But some weeks we do it terribly. Some weeks we do it really well. And even when I woke up this morning, we took off yesterday, we did a lot of house cleaning and different things like that. But there was also time that we spent all day together, but doing things around the house and doing things for each other. And just waking up this morning, I felt like I was full of energy and nothing was blocking me and going. And Maggie, I don't know if you could say the same, but when you wake up and the house is clean and you feel like we spent time together, I don't know, it felt energizing. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I felt the same way. And I've noticed that the days or the weeks that we have taken Sunday off, Monday is oh my God, I'm on top of the world. I can do this, And then last week, for example, we didn't. And I didn't feel that way.
I love how honest you guys are about that, though, because I think there's I've seen this and hey, it might be true for them, but people paint this picture perfect balance of weekends are very strict with this and that. And I'm we are still working on that a lot, especially with our phones at night and things like that. It's not perfect. And I think you just being honest about that, especially with how much stuff you guys are running, there's going to be weeks you don't have that, but the times you do, it's reinforces how much more productive you are the next day when you have some space. It's so funny, entrepreneurs and especially people who are type 3 or type 3 Enneagrams or type A people, they are go, no days off. And it's kind of a weird take a break is actually going to make you more productive. And it's hard for us to get that sometimes, but it's true.
I'm also the type 3 Enneagram and type A. We're the same. And that has been such a hard thing for me to really embody. I understand it intellectually, I understand that that's going to work, but there's still that fear that comes up. That's well, if I don't do it right now, then it's not going to get done. And then, I'm going to fall behind and all of that. And it's no, actually the rest is what gives me the fuel to then be able to go and do all the things. For example, I had basketball practice this morning at 8 a.m. Okay. And it takes me 45 minutes to drive to the school. So I have to leave an hour early, and I would not be able to get up. The days that I don't take that time off and I have an early morning practice, I do not show up well. And I'm not okay with that, right? I'm not okay to show up and lead my team when I didn't get enough sleep, or I didn't take a day off, or I didn't prioritize enough workouts, or whatever it is that I needed to do in the time leading up to when I have to perform, right? Because Cos said, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, if you're in a leadership position, that's your performance, right? That's your job. And so it's important that, to me, it's so important I'm able to show up well, as my best self for those people. And that's what I've been able to anchor back into, to take the time off, to wake up early enough. This morning, for example, my alarm went off and I didn't want to get up when I needed to get up. And I hit snooze one time, and then I went to go hit it again. And it was this thought in my mind of I don't want to get up right now, but that's why I have to. And I have to get up right now because I need to be able to show up well for my team, for my girls. Like, they're counting on me to be able to lead them. And if I don't do this thing for myself, which in this moment is wake up early enough to not be rushing out of the house, then I'm not going to be able to do that. And I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. I love that. It's like you turn it around, kind of like what you were saying, Cosmos, about your health. Like, if I don't do this for me, I'm not going to be able to serve the people I need to serve, and it's so true. It's so true. I'm curious, Maggie, anything else that you would kind of credit to you guys, like keeping your marriage so strong while you still have so many things to do and are balancing all these different businesses? Any like rituals or any things that Cosmos didn't mention that you'd want to point out?
Yeah, I think it really goes back to our intention from the beginning of when we decided to get married. And I remember one conversation in particular. I think we'd been engaged for a couple months at least. And we used to live in this old farmhouse on the farm where Kaz is sitting right now. And that house doesn't exist anymore. But it was like, oh my God, living there. We lived there for 1.5 years while we were building our house. And it was quite the experience. That place was definitely haunted. So we're like we're sitting in the kitchen of this really beat up house. That's his brother's house, that his brother's just letting us live there because he has extra space. And like, we were so, grateful for that opportunity while we were building our house. And we're sitting in this place and we're like, this is not where we want to be with our life, but we know we're going to get there. And I remember we had this conversation about faith and about religion, because Cosmos grew up in the Greek Orthodox faith, and I grew up with no like religious background whatsoever. Both of my parents were raised Catholic and hated it. And so they like ran very far away from the church and were just like, they just didn't raise us with any sort of faith or religion. And they weren't against us exploring it on our own, but it wasn't a part of my life. Like, it was a part of his life. Like, his dad is a priest, they were in church every Sunday. Like, this is a really big deal. And I remember we were having a conversation about the ceremony of our wedding and whether or not we were going to have it in a church. And I was at that time was not okay with getting married in a church because I didn't have any connection to that. And the bigger deal to me was that I didn't understand it. Like, I was like, this is all just a story I don't get. Like, this doesn't make sense, Where to him, he couldn't understand why I wasn't willing to have a ceremony in a church, because to him, of course, this is what you do, And so we're having this conversation, this disagreement where, like, down to the foundation, down to the like most bottom level, we were not on the same page. And so we had to literally like excavate from where we were down to the bottom. Over the next 1.5 years, we spent every single week with his sister and brother-in-law, like learning about the faith, about religion, and going on that journey together, because, we came to the understanding that I was like, if I'm going to get married in a church, I'm going to understand it. And I'm going to actually, like, this is something I'm going to embody and take on too. And in order for me to do that, I need to actually learn about it. Right. And thankfully, like, his sister and brother-in-law are extremely knowledgeable. He's also a priest and they're very involved in the church. And they were able to teach it to us in a way that we were actually able to understand. And that process was one where Kaz and I think he learned more than I did, truthfully, because I was starting with nothing, right? And he was taking everything that he thought he knew and like uncovering the meaning of it, or why you actually do this, right? And the reason why I tell that story is because that's how we approach our relationship, and like deciding what's important and making sure that we're on the same page at the foundation, right? We have like a phrase that's written on the side of our fridge on the whiteboard. And it's like, we build on a strong foundation. And if we didn't take the time to do that, and we didn't continuously take the time to like dig back down and get back down to the foundation and remember, what it is that we've built this relationship off of, it's so easy to get sidetracked. Right. But we took the time and the time, so much time, put in so much work, had so many hard conversations about just what we believe, what our values are, what our priorities are, what we want our life to look like. And even when we don't necessarily agree with one another, we are committed to figuring out a way that works because we have decided to be together in this lifetime. And that is what comes first. Like, it kind of goes back to what Kaz said about prioritizing me. I have to prioritize him, and we have to come first before everything else, because what else do you do it for? Like, if you're not going to do it for us, if we're not going to do it for us and for each other, what else are we doing it all for?
Right.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Cosmos, sorry, did you want to add something in?
Yeah, just unlike to show, like, I just want to, like, that was a really good example, Maggie. And I remember that time was so, like, that was just an example, but it showed we do this every day in a certain way of committing to doing something or working through something. So those days for me looked like getting up at around 5 a.m., doing like a workout for about half an hour, going to work and working until 6 p.m., and then getting in a car and driving an hour down. It's hour one way to go visit the brother-in-law and sister, and go and then we'd be there until about 11 o'clock at night, and then almost midnight, and then drive an hour back home. And then so like those days were long. But when it comes to like our relationship, like, I'm willing to sacrifice sleep for a relationship. There was multiple times where we were not going to go to bed until we had talked through something, or we'd gotten down to the bottom. And we're not yelling at each other. Don't get me wrong. There's tears and they're getting deep and emotional, but there's, we'll talk with each other until 3 a.m. in the morning. And I know that I've got an 8 a.m. meeting with someone, and I'm going to get up at 5:30. I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to get ready, and I'll be ready for that 8 a.m. meeting. But I'm so committed to the relationship. I'm committed to the relationship more than I'm committed to work. I'm committed to the relationship. Not as much as I'm committed to myself. Like, I have to prioritize myself, but I know that the value of the relationship is why we do everything. So, we have that work. It's like, you work like really hard for a relationship if you want to be in it. And if you're willing to put in that work, you're going to get the result, you want.
And kind of what you guys are describing too, that was like a really like sleepless season, it sounds like, and like the days were long, but it was a season. You knew, like, it's not going to be like this forever. This isn't our whole life. We're not going to be, having this schedule all the time. But I think it's just a beautiful example of, like, you really had a busy season and you had to support each other in whichever way you had. And I'm sure this has been a common theme on most of these interviews, is how you could kind of support your spouse during their really busy season, whether that's Maggie's going through a really busy growth season in her business and with the teams and everything that you do, right? Or Cosmos, you with all the businesses you run. And so I'm curious, how do you guys have conversations around like those kinds of, I guess it's like divvying responsibilities, but also like Maggie needs more in this season. How can I support you, and vice versa? Is there anything you guys do to help each other during those?
Yeah, I definitely do see that. I mean, when it comes to like responsibilities around the house or different things, like making sure food is made or things like that, what we'll do is sometimes we'll outsource some of those things. Like, so there have been seasons where we're both very busy at the same time, and that's when like we're buying meals and having them delivered to the house, and yeah, it costs maybe a little bit more, but at the end of the day, we're kind of outsourcing that. But we have to support each other in a way that, like, and also I think the most important thing is like there's certain like tasks and things that we kind of help each other out with during each other's busy season, but there's also like them like mentally being there for them. So if I know that Maggie's going through like a very busy time or things like that, I'm going to make sure that I meet on her schedule. So when she has time in the middle of the day and maybe I'm at work throughout the middle of the day, I'm going to take 2 hours out of the middle of the day and go have lunch with her. And because I know that this is her busy season, and I know she does the same thing for me. If she knows I'm going through a busy season here, she'll come to the office and bring lunch to the office, and we'll sit down and have lunch and have these conversations, because that's one thing that we have conversations no matter what. And like, I'm not talking like like quick 15-minute, like we're talking like 2-hour long conversations are almost like an everyday event in some way or another. Whether it's we're going on a walk or it's around the house, we're talking, but like we want to get to a deep level. So, but we're meeting each other on each other's grounds throughout our busy season, you know?
Yeah. I love that. Maggie, anything else that you would add to that?
Yeah, Cosmos, you made that sound so lovely, but I've got to say, I think we're really bad at this. Like, I think
Yeah.
I know you agree with me. I know you agree. So all the things that he said are true. We do those things. But I think the part that we need the most work on, like when I think of where we could be, right? And where I want us to be, because we both want our relationship to be phenomenal. Like we're not okay with like an okay relationship or a good relationship. We want a great relationship. And so, Cause is 100% right. Like, for example, it's basketball season. So if I have a game, I'm not getting home until late. And he usually cooks anyway, which I'm super grateful for because he likes to cook and I don't. But he's definitely cooking. Like that's, he's like, okay, I'm going to leave the game. I'm going to go home and cook dinner. So that way, by the time you take the bus back to the school and make it home, like dinner's ready, But I would say the part of this that we are not that great at is asking for help. Like it takes us a long time to, he's like, yeah, you're right. We are really bad at that.
So I think it's a lot of entrepreneurs and people.
Yeah. Because like, I noticed this, I can think of examples with Cause because that's when I am the person that needs to be giving more support, right? He will be going through so much at work with Aiden Brooke and just like not mention it. Just not mention it. And then I don't know that he needs more support from me. And that is when I feel like we get in situations where there's the most tension in our relationship. And the same thing happens with me too. Like if I have a lot going on and I don't ask for the support that I need, that's when there's the tension in the relationship. And so usually it'll be like, I'm like, why are you being so crabby? Or, whatever it is. I'm like, why? Like, what is wrong? Like there's something wrong. And then we get down to it and I'm like, oh, you guys are being sued. Okay, that makes sense. Like, how can I help you? Right. But I feel like that's the hardest part. I feel like the how can I help you? We do that pretty well, but we don't do the acknowledging that we need the help very well.
I think that's something. Yeah.
I mean, I've struggled to ask for help my whole life, but it's definitely something I've gotten better on. I used to never communicate what I wanted and and I remember going back to my ticket business, everything. It's hyper independence too. Like, especially as an entrepreneur, it's something that you kind of have just naturally a bit.
I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. I don't need to burden. A lot of it was this burden. Like, I don't need to burden my wife. I don't need to burden Megan for something that I can figure out and I can fix.
Yeah. And
I'm so glad you feel that way.
100%. I relate to that. And I feel like it's like, oh, time is like, if I just have more time, I'll be able to figure this out.
Yeah.
Realize whose time you're stealing. I'm stealing Maggie's time to figure it out, at the end of the day. But you're absolutely right. And like, Maggie's got to ask me like 18 times. And I'm like, no, I'm totally fine. Everything is great. And then I'm like, okay, let me tell you, this is really what's on my mind,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Maggie, because I think this is something a lot of people struggle with, is asking for help, especially entrepreneurs. Because like you said, they're so independent, they're go-getters. They're like, I can figure anything out. And it's almost like, I think personally, I mean, it's on both people, but I think it's on me. If I need something, he can't read my mind. I have to tell him. And that's something that I used to be annoyed. I think a lot of women go through this. Like, why can't you read my mind? Obviously I need something. And it's like, he can't read my mind. And I really think it's on the person who needs the help to ask, but I know that's hard to do. But so I'm so glad you guys mentioned that, because it's definitely something we struggled with.
Yeah. It gets more comfortable. I had a phrase, my stepmother and father would always call me at times and they'd ask, like, how are you? I'm like, I'm fine. When I said I'm fine, it means something's up. And they would ask me over and over and I'd be fine. Eventually my dad would call me like privately and he'd be like, what's really going on? And he knew that that's what that meant. And I've gotten better just when Megan asks what's wrong. I'm like, Okay. And she feels more connected to me.
Yeah.
It's intimate moments. It brings up everything. When that starts to happen and you don't speak about what's going on, that's when the disconnect begins. And then it just grows from there.
We always say, our relationship coaches always say vulnerability is sexy. And it is. It really is. I'm like, I feel so much more connected when we're just honest with each other and vulnerable. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, though. There was something I think you wanted to add to that. No, maybe I don't remember.
Okay. I think, oh yeah, it was just,
I saw it on the
I know cause relates to that though, of like, I'll just figure it out by myself, you know, that like, I don't want to burden, want to burden my partner. But I agree with you, Megan. I think that it is our responsibility as the person who needs the help to ask for the help. And that's something that we have worked through a lot, is this concept, this groundbreaking, revolutionary concept that your partner cannot read your mind. You know,
we all think they can.
I know. Why? But if I need something, it's my responsibility to ask for it. And then, you know, as a partner, if Cosmos needs something, it's my responsibility to help him, because we have committed to be in this relationship together. And it is my responsibility to help him when he needs help. But I can't, when, you know, we had a conversation about this the other day, actually, because, I was just going through a period of feeling kind of down and not, just not great the majority of the time, you know, and he was getting frustrated that I wasn't taking a certain action. And when it got down to it, I was like, wait a second. Are you upset that I'm not taking the action you would take because you want to solve my problem? Like, he wanted to step in and solve my problem when I didn't ask for help. And I'm like, right now, there's actually nothing you can do. I need you to just love me and like be there and be supportive, you know? Yeah. But if there was something that I needed him to do, it would be my responsibility to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so common, especially in male-female relationships. The guys want to fix it, and we're like, we just need you to be there. That's
that'll be something you can definitely work on. It took me a long time to be able to sit in that uncomfortability of her being upset, Megan being upset and really crying, upset, pissed off at me, and being like, it will be okay. Eventually it will be okay, but right now it's okay that she's pissed off or upset, and there's nothing I can do at the moment to fix it other than just hug her and tell her it will be okay.
Yeah.
That's incredibly challenging. And I have started to do it right 20% of the time, maybe. But
everything takes practice.
And I totally get what you mean there. It's like you sit in this uncomfortableness where I want to be like, I'm like biting my tongue. I'm like, no, don't just be here. It's not, you know.
Don't fix. Yeah. We're not problems to fix, but I know it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. Something you guys mentioned before we started recording was just the life you guys have created together. I mean, obviously it sounds so beautiful from your introductions, right? But you've been together now 9 years, you said?
6.
Well, 9. Oh, okay. I thought it was 6.
No, just 6 total. Yeah, 6 total.
Oh, I misread that. They were together for a long time before they got married. Okay, so 6 years. So you've been together 6. That's a long time, though. You've been together for 6 years. And I know, obviously, your life has really transformed since then. And during all of that, you have to grow. And just even knowing you for a few years, Maggie, seeing how much you've grown. And I think this is a common thing with entrepreneurship. A lot of times one person grows and the other doesn't. And that's where a lot of the conflict happens. I've seen so many relationships go downhill because of that. Because you kind of become it's not like you're a different person, but you're a more evolved person. You're just grown. And so how did you guys grow together? How did you hold each other accountable to that growth? Anything you did? Because you have grown together and it's kind of rare. So I'm definitely curious how you guys did that.
Well, let me start off with this. When we first got together, I took a job working for my brother on his farm, and Maggie had a job in Danbury, Connecticut, and I remember she left that job because they weren't paying her for some reason, and then she took another job, and then she signed up with her first coach and was going to go on this mission of self-improvement. And I remember her having a conversation with me saying, "Hey, listen, I'm going on this mission of, I'm going to, start to improve and do these things and go after what I want." And going to be aligned? If you're going to be aligned with it, we're going together. If not, I don't know if we're going to make it. And she said that concern.
Oh, wow.
It was like one night in a conversation. And I remember thinking, well, this is exactly what I want too, because I'm not happy. I'm not settling for anything, and I'm not happy with where we are. So like, let's go. And she's been, she has been investing constantly in programs and different things. And I have been reaping the benefits of every last thing, because we talk every single night about every single thing. And when we talk about all these things, like my successes, I always tell Maggie this, that like the successes, it's not my successes, it's our successes, because everything, every conversation that we have, she knows in such an incredible level, every business that I'm running, that she knows better than a lot of the other people that are working in the businesses and managers in the businesses, because but because we talk about them so much. So we're really building these companies. I'm just this person sitting in the desk over here doing the day-to-day, but it's us building it,
Yeah. I hear this throughout a lot of the interviews we've been doing, is like you guys operating as a team. That's been a really big theme that we've had throughout. And that's something like with the business that we run, I'm the face of it, and he doesn't like being on. He's getting better about being in.
That's why I'm hiding behind the mic.
No,
I'm not.
We just have a bad setup today. But I'm the face of it, but I could not do this without him. Like, there's so much people don't know that he does, not only on a practical level, like specific, like editing a podcast or whatever, but just emotionally and mentally. And like you said, talking through that stuff. And I love how you said, like, you've reaped the rewards of so much of the growth, but it's also because you were open to that. And if the partner's not open to that, that's where I think the disconnect can happen. So it's pretty amazing. You guys were both right off the bat, like, all right, let's go.
I would like and the foresight that Maggie, it's something to go to your partner at that early stages and just be like, this is what I'm going to do. And if you're on board with this, like, this is, and if not, then like, you're going to get left behind, but I don't know where we're going to end up being. But yeah, to an extent. And I love that. And it's not like forcing someone, but the way you approach it and the way you word it, it's just that foresight is, it's pretty huge.
That probably, not that again, Cosmos, you were already wanting to do that, but I'm sure for anyone else that would light a fire and go, okay, I have to take this seriously. This is something that she's not messing around with. She's not trying, she's not dabbling in it. Like, this is a path that she wants to take.
Yeah. I like to think of it in this way, but like, when I've always called her a ledge pusher, but like, people are standing on the ledge and Maggie's like, let's go. And she will like jump off the ledge, but push you too. And you'll dive into whatever you were fearing doing. And I think that like, we've become like, I was a ledge stander. I was on the ledge for all these things that I wanted to do and living in like regret land constantly. And Maggie is someone who's like, she'll take that initial like step and go after it. And now we're at this point where we've both grown to being at this point where we're pushing each other off ledges. I'm saying, hey, let's go, we should do that and this and this, and we've kind of conquered a lot of fears that we had. And like, to get off like the base level of growth of like just getting past the point where you have more faith in yourself is really conquering like these initial fears. Once you do that a couple times, and like Maggie gave me the courage to do it and everything like that, you start to just go after, a certain level of things that you fear yourself. You go after them and conquer these fears and keep conquering fears. That's what success really looks like, conquering fears one after the other. So what's the next thing you fear? Go after it, But Maggie's like, the thing that pushes me to do that.
I love that. I'm going to call you the ledge pusher now.
Magic Fitzpatrick, the ledge pusher. I'll just have
so many great nicknames.
A list of names. Yeah, I would say something about Cos and I that I think that, I don't know. I can't say that anyone could do this in a relationship because I'm only in our relationship, so I don't know. But I would like to think that this is possible. I know, like Cos just said, I'm the person that is like, let's go, like, we're going to do this thing, and he is the person that once we get going, he keeps the fire burning, where I'm like, okay, I did that thing, I'm on to the next thing. He is more stable in like, no, I want to see this through. And we know that about each other, so we can use those things to our advantage, where like I will, he'll say, I want to do this thing. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Right. And then when I get tired of doing that thing, he's like, no, we're going to finish it. And I like to think of it like we're holding hands, and it's like, I take a step, he takes a step. I take a step, he takes a step. Right. And we're doing it together, and we're using our strengths to help each other keep moving forward. But I think it does take, a level of risk and a level of faith to be able to do that. Like for me to go to him and say, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And, Cosmos said it nicely, but Mike, I think you're right, where I probably said, if you're not going to come, like, I'm going to leave you behind. Like, that's probably what I said. And, like, I'm going, come with me or not. Right. That takes that's really scary. But also, like, I had to have faith that he was going to come with me, or if he didn't, that was the best thing. And I think that's something that I live my life by is, if I know that I need to do something for me and I'm making the best decision for me, I'm also in turn making the best decision for us.
Yeah. Oof. Yes.
Yeah. I struggle with that.
It's so hard. It's hard to understand that, but it's so true. And this is something that I'll give Mike more credit to. I'm definitely working on. We have like weekly meetings every week, and we had a tense one the other day. And it's something that I'm working on, some of my things. And it was kind of to your point, Maggie, you made such a great point, is like, we each have these strengths. And sometimes I think maybe the more type A person, I'm just assuming, tends to want their partner to have the similar strengths occasionally, and go, well, why don't you just do it like I do? If you just did it like I did, then we wouldn't be in this situation. We wouldn't be arguing about this thing. And I'm like,
you wouldn't get the other beautiful parts.
It's so true though. It's like, well, my strengths are his weaknesses and his weaknesses are my strengths. And you just put that so beautifully. It's like, and again, still working on this is letting go of the fact that he's never going to do things exactly the way I do it. And that's actually good. And that's okay. And like it,
sort of. Megan gives me these deadlines that are essentially arbitrary deadlines, because if they're not done 2 days before the deadline, that's the actual deadline. And I'm like, why are you giving me fake deadlines that don't exist?
Like, if you get it done today, get it done today. Why are you waiting till the last minute? I wasn't a procrastinator in school, and so he was, and I always did so well.
And there's a mix for sure, but I looked at it, I'm like, you're giving me fake deadlines, and then you're getting mad when the deadline that you gave me is not met.
I know, I'm working on it. But it's like you hit the nail on the head, and it just made me even go, wow, yeah. It's like the part of him that tends to do that is also the idea generator and the creative and the big dreamer and the big visionary that we need in our relationship. So I just love how you put that about how you're the ledge pusher and then Cosmos keeps you guys going. I think everyone needs to realize that and do a little check. Is like, am I trying to make my partner me, or make them do what I do? I would not want to be married to myself, because I would drive myself crazy.
Oh my God, me either.
Can you imagine two of us? No.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
We think so. I totally get with this, because we think so differently. Maggie gives me fake deadlines too. She's like, the game starts at 5 o'clock, and I'm like, there at 5:30, and like the game starts at 5:30, and I'm like, what? No, you're on time. That's great. But also, what the heck?
Awesome. My dad used to have a saying. My dad, I don't live by it. I'm trying to get better. My dad used to have a saying growing up that on time is 5 minutes early. And I'm gonna get since he passed, I'm gonna get a tattoo, and one of them is gonna be a quote. And I was debating which one to get, and I think it's that, because if I look at it, then I'll just be more on time.
Then you'll be more on time.
Yeah, like, thanks, Dad. I'm just gonna look at this every day.
You'll really be able to embody it, if it's on you, and then you'll be like, okay, I have to do this.
Exactly. Oh, you guys are amazing. We could talk to you for so long. Like, this has been so enjoyable. I would love if you could just leave, like, what is, like, I know, again, you've given so much. So even if it's just a summary of what you said, or a quote, or something that you want to leave us with, like something that you recommend people prioritize when they really want to grow their business, have success, but make their marriage still number one, or their relationship still number one. Any last piece of advice that you would give people listening?
For me, I mean, when it comes to your Maggie or your spouse, whoever it is, don't, when they ask to do something, or when they want to do something, or when they're questioning you, don't question, like, don't get offended, or don't react with like a, like Maggie questions me all the time, and but she also pushes these things that maybe at some points I'm like, wait, why the heck would we do that? And I could get defensive, or I could get in all those ways, and ignore that whole side of it. Just like like Maggie said it good in the other way, but like, have faith. You know, if you have faith that, like, some of these things sound totally outlandish, especially when you're in an entrepreneurial relationship. Someone says something and you're like, that might be totally outlandish, but what does it hurt to try? What does it hurt to try? And a lot of times, like, it's just have some faith in each other. And also, when you're having faith in each other, having faith is perfectly okay to talk about it. Questioning, answering each other's questions and things like that, that's not an offensive thing at all. Having deep conversations is probably one of the most important things. So don't question each other, question each other. Don't try to stifle each other's light.
Yeah. Don't try to react while they're questioning you and be like, why is she doing this, and get defensive about, and just listen.
Yeah.
Just listen and try to ignite each other's light. Don't try to stifle each other's light.
Oh, I love that. That's great. That's perfect. Maggie, anything you'd add?
Going off of what you said, Cos, I think something that goes along with that is that we have to assume and remember that our partner has the best interests of our relationship in mind. I think that goes along with that, right? Because it's easy to just get into this place of they're trying to attack me, which is not usually the case. Like, if that is the case, that's a different scenario, but I'm assuming that that's not the case, right? And so we have to assume that, you know, the other players on the team have the best interest of the team in mind. But ways to prioritize your relationship, this has been the theme of a lot of the time for us recently, is actually just spending time together. Like, actually stop working, like stop, and do something else. Or at least if you do have work to do it together. Take a break to have a conversation, right? Like, I think we can get caught up in, you know, all of these hacks of how to prioritize your relationship, but really what it just comes down to is being together, right? And I noticed that when Cos and I are together, not working is the best time spent together, but we do run businesses together, and it's so easy to, you know, do everything by yourself. Going back to this point that we had before, you know, as like entrepreneurial type people, we just think we can do everything on our own, right? And sometimes you have to just not do it on your own, even if you think that you can.
Yep.
That's like beautiful way to end it. Thank you guys so much. Actually, I'm so bad. One last question. Do you have something?
I have a personal question that I want to ask.
Okay,
but it's going. So it's about. So I can cut this because it's going to go way back. It's about church.
That was probably good.
I have, so similar to Maggie, I grew up with no impact of church in my life, nothing. And it's weird. I've had this not growing. So I think about my dad's funeral. So my brother is the music director at a church, and not very religious, but so the understanding that I've recently taken out of church is that it's just what you want it to be. Like, it's just this support system and this faith around, you can make whatever you want from it. And I've just begun to, like, again, to be blunt, accept, like, to be open to the idea of church and be like, but I'm starting to see kind of the beautiful parts of it. And I think about that moment of his funeral, and it was one of the most beautiful memories I'll ever have, even though it was one of the saddest moments of my life. And I guess that's kind of it. Like, I wanted to, coming from somebody, from you guys who have a deeper understanding of it, how would you describe church? And is it that, like, the way I view it right now in the moment, and not having dove deeper into it yet, is like, it's just kind of whatever you want it to be at that time. It's whatever you need it to be. And it's just a support system around that.
Maggie, you want me to answer this?
Yeah, you can go first.
All right. So for me, so growing up, my father is a priest, and I have 10 siblings. We didn't get into that, but I have 10 siblings. We have a big family, big Irish family. We're not Greek at all, but we are in Greek Orthodox Church, which he was originally Catholic, and then became Greek Orthodox, and then became a priest. But faith was always very strong in our family. Until I was really until Maggie and I really got together, really actually is when I went away to college, I started to question my faith. And you go to church, and a lot of people are going to church and going through the motions, and they're saying all the phrases and things like that, but they're doing it for the reason of saying them to maybe maybe my parents are going to think I'm good for doing this, or not for the right reasons. But now, once I went through this, I don't know, kind of discovered faith close to the same time Maggie and I did, because I had started on this path, and then we both went down this path really strong. It is exactly like what you're saying. All these phrases and all these gospels and things like that, they speak to you what you need to hear at the time. Mm-hmm. That's the thing for me, is I don't consider myself overboard with anything. I'd say we practice our faith pretty well. I pray in the morning and stuff, but the reason or the purpose behind the prayers is to read it, and then you get a different phrase pops out at you and just sits in your head for a little while, and it works as a guide. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. A church itself, to go back to we build on a strong foundation. I think what we discovered is a church itself, the original purpose of the church was, it was a gathering of people. Yep. And it was a gathering of people that talked about what Jesus had taught. And so a gathering of people, then it became a building after that, and a place where people can gather. And what they did is they all came together, and they brought food into one place, and they all ate food together, and they talked about the teachings. And then it started to become formalized and more formalized over the years, and become what it is today. So understanding that it's a place, the church itself is a place for the people to come together and to learn, is a really getting back to the roots of why a church is there is important, just to understand why you go there. Mm-hmm. And then when you go there, there's so much, the Bible is incredibly dense, and all the readings and things like that are so dense that, mm-hmm. It's important to understand that you're not supposed to learn all of it in one sitting or anything like that. It's small little bits are going to come at you. And that's what it is for me. But I've always been in it my whole life. So some of these things, I can recite things off my head, but none of that really matters. It matters how each piece finds you in your mm-hmm. moment, pain or suffering, or sometimes, when you need to express gratitude for what you have,
Sounds like you found a deeper reason and purpose behind it, or identity with it, as you got older.
Exactly.
Which makes sense. Yeah. I actually grew up going to an Episcopal church pretty regularly, unless I faked sick because I didn't like going. And it is because what you just said, I felt like I was just going just to appease my mom, and because I felt like I had to. And it wasn't until I got a little older that I just started to look into spirituality in general, and just faith in general. And it's something that we've definitely been talking about, and especially as we're want to start a family, how are we going to raise our kids? All of that's a huge conversation. So I like that question. Maggie, did you want to share your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think Kaz explained it pretty well. And that's an understanding that we have come to, is church is it's a place where we can go and be in a group of people who want to learn and talk about the same thing. Now, when you go to that place, most of the people do not want to learn and talk about the same thing. They are mm-hmm. going because of a tradition or a routine, right? So church itself, to me, is a place where I can go to intentionally practice my spirituality and my faith, but it's not the only place that I go to intentionally practice those things. And I agree with what you said, Mike, about it being whatever you need in the moment. And if you start to pay attention to the calendar of the church, I'm very detail oriented, so I pay attention to these things. It's just the same thing year after year, like literally the same exact thing year after year. But now this is 6 years of me going with Cause. And yes, I know the stories, but I learn something different every time, right? Because it applies to my life in this moment. But you have to be, willing and receptive to that, because for the first 4-ish years of me going, I wasn't, and I learned nothing, so it depends on, what you give is what you're going to get. How open you want to be is what you're going to receive from it. But I think that, the structure of a religion is just one path that you can go down. And I would say that I practice my faith and my spirituality in many ways. And through, the organized religion of Greek Orthodox Christianity is just one way that I practice that. And I personally like to find the teachings and the lessons that come with that religion and, relate them to how I can learn them through other religions or forms of spirituality, because that's how I feel like I really understand and can apply the message instead of just, saying the words.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
You feel good about that?
Yeah, I was just curious.
I like the question. I didn't expect that.
I'm sure you did. And it's just been, again, it's been something that I've just been more interested in, because it's never been a part of my life. And I've had conversations with my brother, because we both, I think, had the very same understanding of it. And he's worked in church for a while. And I think having lost our father now, he's starting to be open to it and be like, and start to actually listen when he's in church. And
he's probably a prime example, though, of someone who he literally is a choir director at a church. That's his full-time job.
He's been in church for 15 years.
Yeah. And he never, until now, started to actually go, oh, let me listen. And he wouldn't be offended by us saying this. No. He never listened. He was like, I don't know what they're saying. You know what I mean?
He used to text me during all the homilies, be like, oh God, I have 15 minutes now. What should I do?
He's there to do his job. And it's cool to even see him start to I love it. I think that's really awesome. My question was not that profound or deep. Mine was, how do you manage four dogs? I eventually want that, and I need tips.
We need to go. We did have a big yard.
Bigger yard, definitely recommend. An invisible fence, definitely recommend. So you don't have to take them on walks, because that is very difficult. But it's this is, one of those things that we've actually had to work on. For example, tomorrow, Baxter and Brady have grooming appointments. Wednesday, Barley and Molly have grooming appointments, because, I can't take them all at once. That's obnoxious. And so, but this is one of those things where tomorrow I'm going to take the dogs to the groomer, and Cause has to pick them up because I'm going to be at practice. And then the same thing for Wednesday, and so when it comes to your relationship and taking care of that many dogs, communication, you gotta, put the family first and be like, all right, I know I have work today, but I need to go pick up my dogs from the groomer. And that's something that it was actually hard for me to let go of that responsibility. I felt like I had to be the one to take care of them 24/7. And then when I actually asked for help and was like, hey, I can bring them, but can you pick them up? It actually got a lot easier. Surprise, surprise.
Asking for what we need. Look at that theme again.
In our wedding vows, Maggie said in front of everyone and on camera that for every 2 dogs, I could get 1 tractor. So
oh my gosh.
So you rode 2 tractors.
So you have 2 tractors?
Well, he has 2 tractors.
No.
Okay.
No.
If we go into this story, we'll be here for another 45 minutes.
That'll be the next one.
Yeah, well, that'll be the next one. We gotta.
That'll be for our agricultural podcast.
That's hysterical. No, seriously, I was always like, that is a lot of dogs to manage. That's. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. They bring you guys so much joy, I can tell. And I just love whenever they're on your stories. It's so fun. Well, you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for being here and spending the time. We really appreciate you taking the time out. Where can everyone go find you? We'll put all the links, everything in the show notes so no one has to memorize, but where can people connect with you guys?
Cosmos is now on his social media game. He is,
Wow.
posting all these stories and stuff.
On Facebook or on Instagram. I guess LinkedIn will message people most, but Facebook, Instagram, I'm getting my story game up or
Nice.
Yeah, story game up. He's trying
I'm
to
getting
build his personal brand,
Nice.
and it's working. For social media, I usually am on Instagram at Maggie Fitzpatrick. And where else can you find me? That's really the only place right now. This is one of the things. It's like we do 100 things, and then you ask me, "What do you do?" And I'm like,
Exactly. So because I talk to you about it so regularly that I'm like, wait, that's like top of mind. Come on.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, we'll put your Instagram, movewithmaggie.com, pretty easy. And Maggie's Maggi, no E at the end. And then is it C Fitzpatrick on Instagram?
C Fitzpatrick. Yep.
Okay, perfect. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Thank you guys.
Right.
Is it not right?
No.
That's not your Instagram.
That's definitely not right.
We'll put the right one.
We'll find it and put it.
He's Cosmos Fitz.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's definitely not right. Okay, Cosmos Fitz and Cosmos with an S at the end. Correct.
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll put it in the show notes. But thank you guys. This has been amazing. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Luna wants to say hi to you now because she senses your dogs. But thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you go follow Maggie and Cosmos and thank them for this incredible episode. You know what to do. Take a minute, share this so more people can hear this. There's so many golden nuggets in this one. You're going to probably want to go back and listen to it again. So thank you guys for taking the time. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys on the next one.